My name is Rosa Luxemburg. It's 1917, and I'm in jail. But in Russia, the revolution has begun.
In November 1917, the Russian workers launched a revolution. The Bolshevik Party handed power to councils of workers' and soldiers' deputies, known as Soviets. They dismantled the army and did what millions of soldiers across Europe dreamed of: took their country out of the First World War. But the Bolshevik government soon began repressive measures, banning opposition parties and limiting press freedom. Rosa Luxemburg, still in jail for opposing the war, feared the Bolsheviks themselves would create the dictatorship of a clique.
Every democratic institution has its limits and shortcomings. But the remedy that Trotsky and Lenin have found, the elimination of democracy as such, it's worse than the disease it's supposed to cure. For it stops up the very living source from which alone can come correction of all the innate shortcomings of social institutions. That source is the active, untrammelled, energetic political life of the broadest masses of the people.
For Rosa, the relationship between revolution and democracy is one that cannot be disengaged. So you can't have revolution without democracy, and you can't have democracy without revolution. And what she sees is that the Bolsheviks start to concede in democratic processes. And she's very concerned about that because she sees sensationalist tendencies erupt really before anyone else had seen them. So she writes a pamphlet called The Russian Revolution that had become consequently infamous or famous, depending on what side of the debate you are on, that basically says that you cannot concede democracy. Freedom for those who agree with each other is no freedom at all. And of course, the very famous quote, freedom is always and exclusively the freedom for the one who thinks differently.
By November 1918, Germany was on the brink of defeat and revolution. Sailors at the port of Kiel mutinied. Workers in major cities took to the streets and formed Russian-style councils. The Kaiser abdicated. The war ended. Only the proclamation of a republic with a moderate socialist government stopped a full-blown revolution. Suddenly, Luxemburg was free. Her first move on leaving prison was to address a mass rally in Breslau. Her second move was to get on a train to Berlin. Her third move to break completely with the Social Democratic Party she'd lived her life in and form the Communist Party. Luxemburg knew the situation was unstable, with the government weak and her own supporters impatient for a Russian-style revolution. In her newspaper, The Red Flag, edited with co-thinker Karl Liebknecht, she used inflammatory language. But at the founding conference of the new Communist Party, she urged caution. The revolution, she said, will be a long valley of sorrows, and we can't take power until we have the majority of workers with us.
Socialism cannot be made and will not be made by order. Not even by the best, most capable socialist government. It must be made by the masses, by every proletarian individual precisely there, where the workers are chained to capital. The chain must be broken. This is socialism. Only in this way can socialism be created.
But the situation was dangerous. Paramilitary units were formed, known as Freikorps, and commanded by far-right war veterans. They saw Luxemburg and Liebknecht as traitors. On January 6, 1919, a massive left-wing demo spilled over into street fighting between the communists on the one side and the socialist government and the Freikorps on the other. Some communists occupied the HQ of the socialist newspaper, Vorwärts.
She has one really important sentence where she says, "History will do its work, see that you too do your work." So when the Spartacus uprising happens, she basically sees it as an opportunity to shift consciousness to the left and to oppose those centrist and right-wing tendencies within German social democracy. And so she tries again, as she did all her life, to push revolutionary socialism into that moment in time.
Luxemburg, Liebknecht and the Russian emissary Karl Radek were all now on the run in Berlin. There were leaflets circulating calling for them to be killed. And even the socialist newspaper, Vorwärts, now back in the hands of the leadership, seemed to have the same idea. Many hundred corpses in a row, proletarians. Karl, Rosa, Radek and co. Not one of them is there, proletarians. In severe peril, moving from one safe house to the next, Rosa Luxemburg wrote what was to be her last newspaper article.
The masses are crucial. They are the rock on which the final victory of revolution will be built. The masses were up to the mark. They had forged this defeat into the chain of those historical battles which are themselves the strength and pride of international socialism, and that is why a future victory will blossom from this defeat. Order rules in Berlin, you stupid lackeys. Your order is built on sand. Tomorrow, the revolution will rear its head once more and announce, to your horror, amid the brass of trumpets, I was, I am, I will be.
On the 15th of January 1919, Luxemburg and Liebknecht were captured by a unit of the Freikorps and taken to the Hotel Eden for interrogation. Rosa was beaten and abused. Then, separately, they were marched out of the hotel, their heads smashed with a rifle butt and shot dead. Luxemburg's body was thrown into a canal. Rosa Luxemburg charted a unique course between the two forms of socialism that would dominate the 20th century. Bolshevism, with its emphasis on centralisation and control, and social democracy, with its passivity and its compromises with imperialism. She understood that for working class people, the only form of freedom available is the one you take yourself, and that in an age of total warfare, the choices facing humanity were stark.
As things stand today, a capitalist civilization cannot continue. We must either move forward into socialism or fall back into barbarism.